Volley and silence. There comes your Spiderling. Predicts the cocoon, finds the damage, and Rampage's AD carry will fall. Trying to get himself out of this fight. A nice three-man taunt. But where's the follow-up? Heavy is dunked. Ramune is going to be tagged with 5. There comes your double kill for Robo. Robo wants to get into this fight. Arrow comes through, finds his way under Ramune, who's also going to be locked down by Diyun. Robo into the middle of the fight, going to be healing up, not able to do anything just yet. Diyun falls second. The defense from Robo and Napon will hold the line. It's going to be done. Robo looking to go right back into the fight. A double kill. He's going to be able to make it a triple for sure right here. Cutting him down. Heavy able to grab the taunt onto 2. Utori in the very back of the pit. Going to be locked down. Cleanses his way out of it. Able to find Utori. Damage able to bring down 2. Not quite able to find number 3. Heavy now going to be shredded as Tussle is back there containing 3. Grabs the kill to BRTT. Dara and Ramune trying to hold the line, but the rest of the team has fallen, and Robo will run them down. The crowd goes wild for the Red Cannons as they bring down the Japanese representative at MSI and claim their second victory on the day.
Welcome back, everyone, to Sao Paulo, as I'm here with Diyun, who just came off his second straight victory with the Red Cannons, recently taking out Rampage as well. And that was a very back-and-forth game. You guys seemed to be in the lead, but then it went away. Tell me what happened.
Oh my god, that was kind of difficult, this game. Like, we had such a huge advantage in the early game, but then we made some very bad decisions that shouldn't happen and that we have to work on. So we managed to hand this game, but like, props to them, they play really well, and we have to improve once again.
Well, yeah, you still have a very, very big game coming up versus SuperMassive. I talked to Dumbledore earlier, and he said about him and Zeitnot then, he doesn't think anyone in the group can beat them, bottom lane-wise. So how are you looking forward to that matchup?
That's good if they have confidence, because they're gonna need it, for sure. And they're good if they are underestimating us as well, things that we won't do versus them, for sure. So we are prepared to play versus them. We know they have a very strong laning phase, they have a good macro play, but overall we're going to see who's going to win it.
All right, it's going to be a very important matchup. Looking forward to the tournament as well. Final question for me is, I've seen how much you've been embraced by the Brazilian crowd and the Brazilian people, and I've been here watching your games, and I can understand why, and you guys know how to put on a show. Can you kind of explain to me what is it like to play here, and what is it about Brazilian esports and the teams and the passion?
So knowing about the French crowd, I know about what is a good crowd, right? So when I played here in Brazil in 2014, I knew that the Brazilian crowd have such a big passion about the game, and I really love it. Actually, today is the first time that I'm playing versus a crowd that is 100% cheering for us. That's very impressive. There is like 500 people here, and we know that we cannot disappoint them because passion means as well that we have to make them proud. And so this kind of game, I'm kind of ashamed to show them this kind of play, but hopefully we can do better in the future.
Yeah, well, we will see. If anything, it was an entertaining game, so good luck in the rest of the tournament, Diyun. And as for us, back over to the casters for the introduction for the next game.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the mid-season Invitational 2017 play-in stage. I'm Matthew Stewart, and joining me is my fellow shoutcaster from Down Under, Zach Rusty Pie. How's it going, mate?
Heard through the grapevine that our Oceania needed a bit of a pep talk, maybe some halftime oranges, so we're here to support them and yell loudly as they hopefully find themselves maybe with a victory.
Yeah, hopefully that's helped them out because we're about to get into our fourth match of today, which is going to be SuperMassive taking on the Direwolves. And Rusty, there's been a big trend so far in the first 3 games that you've watched today, which is 80 carries are kind of a big deal this tournament.
Yeah, 80 carries we've noticed from our drafting, how the teams are playing, and basically who the star players seem to be of these teams at the moment through at least Group A, that 80 carries are probably going to be the standouts, the biggest deal. Caitlyn between these teams has cropped up. There's a lot of contention as to who can actually carry the hardest on the Rift, but overall, from day one performers, it has been the 80 carries.
And we're still getting the likes of Ashe, Varus being picked up, but even a Jinx thrown in amongst it in the first match of today. And speaking of that match, the Direwolves, they really looked like they had jitters coming into this tournament, Rusty.
Yeah, we have to look at the Direwolves. Yes, it's the first time we've ever seen them actually competing on a stage for a finals that has a crowd at an international event. Like, all of these things compound, and it's going to be a lot to deal with for the Direwolves. Obviously, their game 1, they went down, but there were still some positive signs from them. Definitely signs of life. Potentially enough to get those victories. They do not look like they're outright thrown out of this league. They had enough to take it to the Brazilian side, but those jitters do stand to attention. They have to be eradicated if they want to actually get wins at all.
Whereas if you look at the opposite side of the Rift, SuperMassive, they're the veterans here. They dominated in the TCL. They're used to the crowd. They're used to these international events, and they looked confident even when they were 0-5 down against Rampage.
And you have to remember, they were down 0-5. It wasn't just the kills. It actually looked like a commanding start to the game from the Rampage roster. The LJL have shown up to play, but SuperMassive, you mentioned it, they're the veterans. They've been here before. The team has been together for such a long period of time that you expect them to bounce back strongly. They built a team composition to hit mid-game, to scale into late game. They outscaled the LJL side in Rampage, and they really gave it to them in the late game, so they do look fantastic.
On top of that, historically, Turkey has always been able to take down Oceania's representative in the previous international wildcard tournament. So SuperMassive, they're going to be very confident coming into this one as the favorites, where they want to be as a super team, whereas the Direwolves, once again, going to be underdogs coming into this game.
It's up in the air, right, who you would say is the best team in Group A between perhaps Brazil and SuperMassive from Turkey. But realistically, when you look at both teams performing, they're definitely top two. So Direwolves will absolutely be the underdogs. And the thing about that you have to remember is Direwolves being underdogs, that's exactly where they want to be. That's the position they want to find themselves in. Schönfire's confidence will exceedingly improve if he's actually in the underdog position, because if he gets that victory, the confidence goes through the roof, it skyrockets, and nothing can slow them down.
It's still really interesting to consider them to be, they want to be underdogs, because if you look at all their interviews, they're saying, we're not afraid of anyone, only Korea maybe, and they lose their first match at this tournament, Rusty.
Well, they might be afraid of Brazil a little bit now, unfortunately, coming into this group. Look, for what it's worth, the confidence is something that is absolutely admirable. I respect that they come into this tournament confident. Better confident than not. But they are still having to get through the play-in stage to get to even face Korea, which is the team that they're only afraid of out of everybody here. So baby steps for Direwolves. The confidence can get them through those baby steps.
And the very next step for these two teams is the fourth match of today, and we're going to see a lot of contested picks between the Direwolves and SuperMassive, especially since both of them have played Lulu Caitlyn. We know that both teams really want to pick up Ivan in the jungle. I think every team wants to pick up Ivan at the moment, Rusty.
Yeah, I think the big thing as well in the jungle role is the fact that he's actually #1 above and beyond. Yes, Ivan is a strong pick. We've seen him crop up through most major regions as one of perhaps the top 5 junglers. Here and there, he's #1, but for this tournament, for day #1, he just is the best. A be-all, end-all of the jungle position. Will definitely be a contentious pick between Direwolves and SuperMassive, as it was taken away from Direwolves in game #1 as well.
And I believe it's the only supportive jungle that we currently see played in the meta. What, you're going to get Kha'Zix, maybe Lee Sin trying to support an AD carry? That's not going to quite work out.
Exactly, and this comes back to the AD carries being such a big deal within this group, being Group A. They've got strong carries out of the AD carries with Zeitnot and King in this particular matchup, and then if you get the Ivern, it's a lot easier to actually support that AD carry as he does carry the game. Yes, you can pick something like a Lee Sin if your heart desires it, but whilst it can peel, whilst it does have shields, nothing works in the same way that an Ivern does.
Yeah, and just touching that quickly, I mean, Zeitnot, he was the MVP in the TCL, I believe, for his team, whereas King, as Vedius has mentioned on the desk already, has 3 accounts at the top of Challenger in Oceania, and is widely regarded to be one of the best AD carries in the region, so they're going to be 2 massive forces, and we're definitely going to see very similar play styles from these two teams.
You have to highlight, that's how Direwolves lost their first game, right? Small individual errors happening through the bottom lane, having summoner spells up, getting hit by a Thresh Hook, hit by a Jinx ultimate when you have both flash and heal. These small things actually compound and mean a whole lot if it can result in kills, results in turrets. And coming into this second game, this is why we mentioned jitters. For the Direwolves in particular, you would expect those jitters to go away. If they haven't, they might have gotten worse, and that's why we are highlighting this bottom lane. Contentious picks between them, the Caitlyn Lulu that you mentioned, but also just play style, because if you want to beat SuperMassive, you have to win your bottom lane.
And on top of that, Direwolves have been known to win their laning phase. In fact, throughout most of the OPL, they barely ever lost their lane, and that's how they transitioned into a lot of their victories and eventually took the OPL title. But losing their lane in the bottom side of the map is going to have a huge deficit for them, especially when Chippy's, he was not doing too well in the top lane Olaf as well.
Yeah, look, he started off okay until he got a bit overexcited, tried to dive a Jarvan, gets a little bit locked up there and does go down. But you're right, I mean, we look at this bottom lane, it has to carry so much, but if top lane's also underperforming, like if losing laning phase is something that stands to attention, then it really does need to be mentioned for the Direwolves. You question, a team that went through the whole split, they just win laning phase. Can they team fight? Well, the answer is yes, but how often do they have to team fight from a deficit of laning phase? How good is Schönfire in particular actually at jungling, at pathing around the map if his lanes are losing, or is he going to get exploited from the jungle pressure of the Turkish side?
And on top of that, we've already seen what the Turkish team can do when they lose their lane. It was against Rampage, they were 0-5 down, about 3,000 to 4,000 gold behind, and they were like, yeah, no problem, we can fight back from this. So even if the Direwolves get comfortable and get ahead, it's still a massive task for them because SuperMassive are looking great so far in this tournament, and we're about to get, or we are going to get into Champion Select for the 4th match of today.
Yeah, SuperMassive coming in 1-0 as the favorites. They've taken down Rampage against Direwolves 0-1, who lost their first game to Brazil. There's a lot to prove for both of these teams, but you think Direwolves a little bit hungrier.
They certainly are, and only one team can go into the next round here from Group A. SuperMassive, with that single win, are looking to try and storm ahead with 2 wins, like you mentioned. Direwolves need to try and fight back as soon as they possibly can, but already have a couple of bans coming through for both these teams. Rumble and Ivan taken off the table as first pick potential for SuperMassive, whereas Ash and Graves have been banned out by the Direwolves.
Yeah, Chippy's formerly not a very good Rumble, has practiced it a ton and is now a ban-worthy champion from him. The Ivern shows that SuperMassive don't actually want to first pick it for themselves. They don't value it as highly as perhaps something like the Lulu that they would put a higher priority towards. Again, both bottom lanes have played the exact same champions of choice in their one respective games.
And with Varus being banned out as the final ban from SuperMassive, we're not going to see those very high utility bot lane AD carries, and Shen is the final ban that gets taken away by the Direwolves. Instant first pick lock-in for SuperMassive will be the Caitlyn.
You have to wonder the Caitlyn over the Lulu. You would expect the Direwolves will see that and just immediately lock it in, prevent the Caitlyn Lulu lane from existing. This is actually a very good pick from the Direwolves, and SuperMassive, a lot of priority on just the Caitlyn pick.
And it's one of Destiny's most played champions in the OPL. The Lulu pick was picked up throughout the grand finals, which propelled them to victory, and Schönfire actually locks in Lee Sin as his jungler of choice.
Yeah, Schönfire going for the aggressive champion of choice, of course. If he doesn't get the Ivern, he will default to something aggressive. Good to see Stomage actually matching that as well, and now we do have buff-to-buff junglers that may find each other and start fighting.
On top of that, SuperMassive have locked in Karma to round out their first pick phase for Dumbledoge's support.
Yeah, Caitlyn Karma definitely a strong lane. Even with the Lulu taken away from Destiny in this case, there's still a lot of options there for Direwolves. It is curious, however, that they go for the Ezreal.
Yeah, King is known for his Ezreal play, but pairing them up one up with Lulu, not quite common at the moment.
And it's into a Caitlyn Karma, so they've given one of the hardest champions to actually get through laning phase on in the Ezreal to King, in a lane where we said they need to actually perform against their opponents. Is Zeitnot's the big carry of this team right now, the MVP of the TCL, needs to be respected. However, this just puts a lot more onus on Destiny on the Lulu.
And again, we already mentioned SuperMassive able to dominate their bottom lane with the Caitlyn in their last match, whereas Direwolves, they faltered in the bottom lane. First blood was picked up by the opposing support against Destiny, and from there on, the bottom lane was just sacked by the Direwolves.
Absolutely right. So as we move through these next respective bans, we're starting to see a bit of focus towards different lanes. No one has a single focus, even though the roles are shared. They just want to be careful, you know, get the roles of the champions that they want for themselves.
Yep, and with those bans, it's going to be Talia and Galio from the start of the Direwolves. Fabulous already had one game on that champion. Syndra and Kennen have been banned out by SuperMassive, and an instant lock-in of Fizz for Chippies in the top lane.
So they lock in the Fizz. Fabulous can default to something like a Gragas, which actually has a decent laning phase against the Fizz. There's a chance that, again, he has some kind of counter that he would like to play for himself respectively. So we'll have to keep our eyes on where SuperMassive want to go with their top lane, but they will have to reveal it in at least these next 2 picks, and that means they get a counter pick on the mid lane here, Direwolves, as well.
And SuperMassive have already shown what their mid lane pick is going to be. Naru will be picking up Orianna heading into this game. I believe it's the first time we've seen it this tournament. Has been a very popular pick in this meta.
One of those champions that can, again, augment the strength of your AD carry whilst also being able to carry yourselves. We don't have an assassin from that role or anything like that in particular, just a much more stock standard champion.
And finally, Nodus has been picked up despite his recent nerfs to his Riptide, as Fabulous will be taking that to the top lane.
Now remember last time that we saw SuperMassive, they played the Ivern, they played it super slow, they scaled around their AD carry, but this time around, they've gone for a much more standard team fighting type of composition, only marginal amounts of pick. It is all about protecting their team.
And finally, last pick for the Direwolves should be their mid lane pick for Fantix, unless we see a flex of the Fizz. It seems like he's going to lock in Azir as his champion of choice heading into the mid lane.
Fantix historically has been able to play pretty much every mid lane champion under the sun. He has been historically one of the best Azirs that we have seen within the Oceanic Pro League. So the fact that he's picking up now means that you're confident in his ability to play it, but you do have to highlight why he's going for the Azir in particular. Firstly, he's picked it into Orianna, so he's confident in the matchup because Orianna ramps up with her damage. Hits level 3, she shouldn't die, but she can't really kill you either. So the Azir will be able to scale, and that is the one thing they now have with their team composition. It's not safe wave clear, but Azir does grant them wave clear nonetheless, something to help them out if SuperMassive ever starts sieging.
But still a very different team composition from what we saw in their first match today. Now they don't have too many tools to protect King. They still have the Lulu, but a lot of frontline threat with the Fizz, with the Azir. And Fizz is one of those champions that has been wreaking havoc in the Oceanic Pro League.
Yeah, definitely has been. Even internationally, the Fizz has been cropping up a 90-something% win rate in the LPL as well. Just a massive deal through this top lane. Can snowball extremely well, but Nautilus is one of the champions that excels at actually diffusing Fizz's strengths. He has wave clear, he has shields, really hard to assassinate the Titan of the depths in the top lane, and you would expect Fab Fabulous should be okay in his respective position, but you give Fizz an inch, he takes a mile.
But the big thing I'm going to be looking out for is Stormage against Schoenfire here, because if Schoenfire can get into that top lane, get Chippy's ahead by even a single kill, it's going to be almost impossible for Nautilus to get back into that game.
Yeah, absolutely right. So Schoenfire, the men we look towards, as per usual for a Direwolves game, up against Stomaged, who isn't exactly the biggest carry for SuperMassive, but he has the potential to go off, particularly with this Elise pick for himself.
Yeah, the old Turkish super team from the TCL have been looking good so far in their first match today. Let's see if they can continue to do that as we head into the second match for these two teams. SuperMassive taking on the Direwolves.
Of course, fourth match of the day for these teams. For all of the teams, rather, in Group A in the MSI play-in stage. You wouldn't expect any tiredness to be seen from them just yet, only hunger.
And as always, to kick things off, both teams just going to try and spread out across the river, scout for some vision against the opposing team. But where are we really going to be looking towards here, Rusty, for these two teams? Is it going to be bottom side focus again for SuperMassive? Are we going to see Direwolves trying to play more bot side this game?
I mean, the easiest way to actually watch where they want to put a bit of attention first is where the junglers tend to start the maps. And a lot of Elise, you know, on the red side of the map, they always go for their Raptors, but that means they don't get the best leash. So sometimes they like to vary it up, go towards their blue buffs. But as stock standard, you would expect from the Lee Sin into the Elise, they're going to try and just be on equal footing, be on the same side of the map as each other. A SuperMassive just trying to check out where Schoenfire is.
Yeah, it seems like Fab Fabulous is going to get a late ward over towards the Raptor camp to see if that's where Schoenfire will be starting off this game. No deep wards placed down by the Direwolves to kick this one off.
Now the first big thing as well, when we just mentioned the junglers, is going to come back to this bottom lane. King, Destiny, they don't have the push, they're against the Caitlyn Karma. It is unexpected they'll ever have priority in this lane. So Dumbledore will be free to roam, be free to place early vision at the blue buff of Schoenfire if he wishes in about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes from now, can find the Lee Sin. And nobody from Direwolves can find them.
And already SuperMassive have pushing priority in this bottom lane and have chipped out both King and Destiny down to about half health.
Yeah, now the trick against this matchup as well is to use the minion waves, use the push. If King's ever auto-attacking you with a Lulu, he does do a lot of damage. It can match what a Caitlyn deals. That's why Karma is more important.
As we do move into the mid lane, see Fantix has already pushed out the first lane nice and early, making sure Naru's forced to charm underneath his turret, but doing a good job at that. And they're just going to be trading back and forth to two control mages in the mid lane for this game.
And that's how we contrast this. You would expect the Azir once again just a hard push, try and get Naru at least busy under his turret, pressure him out constantly. As we mentioned, around level 3 is where things start to crop up a bit better for the Orianna. And so whilst the bottom lane should get pushed in from Direwolves, their mid lane should be okay. And so there is an area where Schoenfire could potentially do something, or at least have someone who can rotate and help him if things go awry.
Speaking of Schoenfire, he's just been invaded by Stomach, who's looking to try and take down blue buff for himself. Does have Smite available, and is getting this blue buff down nice and low, while Schoenfire is stuck at his wolf camp. That's going to be taken away. Stomach smites that one, and Schoenfire loses his blue.
Schoenfire is obviously going to be able to spot him doing it. Gets Cocoon.
Yeah, gonna land. Stomach still chasing on forward aggressively, but Schoenfire does W back out towards a ward.
And so the Elise is now going to know exactly where Schoenfire is able to get out, steal the blue buff away. Doesn't matter too much again, it's Elise in. And Schoenfire is going to have the timing on that blue buff anyway. We'll just be able to do his Gromp, but it means he's missing a bit of experience, perhaps missing a camp now as time progresses towards the next respective buffs, as Samaj is still trying to find him.
Yeah, he was waiting in the wings of the mid lane, hiding inside the brush. As top side of the map, Chippy's, he's got Ignite, remember, and he's still chasing down Fabulous. That's a flash being burnt by the Nautilus on the top side of the map.
It was a necessary flash. If the Fizz ever got in range with the Ignite, with W available, could have been a genuine kill threat, but nothing to be seen on the top side of the map. Just an early forced teleport, you would have to imagine, out of Fabulous. He can hold it if he wants to walk back to lane. The minions have just reset. He may want to.
With this pressure though, Shernfire is going to try and take away blue buff on SuperMassive side of the map. Stormmarch is going to come in, does get the smite down as well as the execute damage from the Q. Stormmarch is still chasing on 4, but Shernfire does have a slight experience advantage at the moment.
And it's safe to say, as the lanes progress through this, at only 4 minutes into the game, it's tit for tat with the junglers. They're trying to find each other. That's expected from both of them. Direwolves, used to having winning lanes. Used to having Shernfire be able to use those lanes to pressure jungle or pressure the rest of the map as he chooses. And the more that he's able to progress around the map, or the more Stormmarch is able to prevent him, that's where things break open.
As we can see, Stormmarch still waiting on the top side of the map. There is a teleport coming back in for Chippies with double Dark Seal. We do see Stormmarch trying to wrap around the back. Chippies does not have a flash due to taking Ignite in this match. Shernfire is close by, but he's trying to head back to base. He's still waiting very patiently in the top lane in case Chippies goes aggressive.
Almost looking for Shernfire more than for the gank itself. The Lee Sin was obviously on the top side of the map.
Face check coming out from Chippies. Takes some damage here. Stormmarch going to lay down the hurt. Fabulous throws out the hook, but Playful Trickster gets him back to the safety of his turret.
Yeah, good Playful Trickster. Also has 2 Dark Seals, so a bit of extra sustain from his Corrupting Potion. Exactly. I'm not going to say it's a standard thing for a Fizz to have 2 Dark Seals, but it works in this instance, as he didn't die, didn't have to use anything. Able to heal back up.
Still fairly even on the top side of the map. We do check in with the bottom lane again. King at a massive CS discrepancy, but mid lane is where the action is taking place. Naru taking on Fantix, both of them getting fairly low, and Stormmarch will make sure that he can't get anything out of it.
Whilst the trade was close, Fantix does have heal, so he had the advantage. He technically won the trade, but because Elise is nearby, that forces the equal recall, so no one actually wins the trade, except for Shernfire, who's able to continue hard farming the jungle where the Lee Sin wants to be.
King's gonna step on a track, takes so much damage. Arcane shifts out after all the damage has been dealt as well. Zagnot and Dumbledore have been doing fantastically in this bottom lane.
Again, expect it through draft, but also they are doing it. So it's safe to say they're performing well in the 2v2. They've got the momentum from their previous victory. And Zagnot on the Caitlyn has that momentum. They first picked it through the draft phase. So give me Caitlyn and I will carry.
Nice top side of map, Fabulous again being engaged upon by Chippies. Gets a grasp of the Undying proc there. That's Fabulous already down to half health with his double door on the ring.
That damage is dirty, Fish. Fizz is a nasty creature.
Certainly is, and Chippy's playing him well, but Fabulous has stayed fairly even in CS. In fact, with a big wave pushing on towards his turret, might be able to creep ahead of Chippies.
Yeah, perhaps, and that's all the Nautilus really wants to do. The other big bonus that a Nautilus is meant to provide is the ability to clear waves. With the Riptide, of course, has a slight nerf on this patch, but he's staying at full mana anyway, choosing not to push those waves, not to fight Chippies, because perhaps it's that these junglers on the opposite side.
There is a collapse though, as that's like Stormmarch clashing on towards Shernfire. Sorry, Fantix, who just scoops away and throws the ultimate at the Spiderlings. Thanks for the 10 gold. Now Destiny's going to try and turn Stormmarch into a critter, kicks him backwards. Elise being taken down. Shernfire picks up first blood.
Big rotation out of Destiny in particular. The ultimate was there. These two need to stop fighting so I can talk. Really good rotation out of Direwolves, honestly, as a 3-man unit. Nowhere to be seen is Dumbledore on this Karma. If you've got a pushing lane, you're meant to be able to rotate around the map, but really good use of back timings to get the roam off.
And Shernfire now trying to creep around the backside of Fabulous outer turret. Instead, just takes away Gromp as King returns into the bottom lane to continue farming against Zagnot and Dumbledore, who's still having a great bottom lane, about 20 CS ahead of the Ezreal.
And this is where Direwolves want to be. Contrasting this to their first game of the day, they were losing their lanes, their jungle was suffering, and the jungler of the Brazil side was just rotating around, making the lanes worse. Shernfire now 1-0, CS advantage, is in a strong position. The bottom lane's just utility anyway, they always have been. This is that opportunity for Direwolves to show their strengths, not just their weaknesses. But right now, we're looking at their weakness.
And this is the first split that we've really seen the Direwolves have a very utility-focused bottom lane. King and Destiny were known to be big playmakers. Destiny's known for his Thresh. King known to play hyper carries and be really aggressive in lane. But now that they have Fantix and Chippies playing so aggressive in their solo lanes, they defaulted back into these utility picks, whereas Zagnot and Dumbledore, they can do that too, but they're just so good in the lane itself.
And you know, most curiously, whilst we see Fantix get this blue buff, is that his opponent Naru has gone straight for Sorcerer's Shoes, which isn't your stock standard item build for an Orianna either. The reason you usually see, you know, a Lost Chapter or something for mana regeneration, go cooldown reduction or magic resistance if you're losing lane. But he's gone Sorcerer's Shoes. He wants the shockwaves that hit to be really meaningful at like the level 6 mark, at the level 7 mark before they hit 11 and get completed items. Unfortunately for him, as the shockwave came out, there was no kill.
Still technically has an item advantage over Fantix, thanks to the fact that he only has his brown boots. Both of them have the double ring as well as the amplifying tone. We do see Stormmatch now moving down towards the bottom side of the map. King and Destiny still having difficulty farming in this lane as Dumbledore and Zaytnot keep trading back and forth. Chippy
trouble.
Throws out the fish in the top side of the map. Fabulous gets knocked up. Ignite is still available, decides not to go deep underneath the turret. Maybe some flashbacks from his turret dive in the last match they played.
Yeah, has got the early sheen, so you can see the damage trades there favoring. However, on the bottom side of the map, they are looking for the structure. Again, the thing that took apart the Direwolves. If they look for kills, their opponents are taking structures, taking objectives, beating them on that macro level.
Where's Shonefire waiting in the wings on the mid lane? There's the slide coming from Fantix. Knocks Orianna back in. The shockwave will pull Fantix into the turret range.
Teleports.
And the teleport's coming in. Stormmatch locks down Fantix. That's going to be the first kill for SuperMassive. Shonefire's trying to hop, skip, and jump his way away. But the Spider's going to close on in and pick up a double kill for SuperMassive.
And played excellently by Naru as well, able to get the shockwave off. That was a really aggressive choice from the mid laner and jungle of Direwolves to try and actually go for the flash Azir ultimate when Lee Sin was nowhere to be seen. He wasn't even on your screen. He had to come in as soon as he could, but that was too little too late. Naru had flash. Aggressive, but too aggressive.
Now Stormmatch looking to try and lock down Chippies, doesn't get the cocoon off, and on top of that, during that fight mid lane, SuperMassive took down bottom lane outer turret.
Yeah, all that pressure. We get to see this one again in the mid lane as well. No Lee Sin. He's not here at all. Shows up, the Q comes out, but the flash timing was perfect. And again, bringing them under the turret, the collapse, the teleport also forcing a directional change with Stamage here. They're able to lock down these kills. Fabulous, just by using the flash ultimate, there was no escape for Lee Sin.
So double kill picked up for the Elise, and SuperMassive have a 1,000 gold lead over the Direwolves just 10 minutes into this match. King doesn't have an outer turret to fall back to anymore in this bottom lane, as SuperMassive do rotate their bottom lane. AD carry and support towards the top side of the map, keeping Fabulous down in the bottom lane to deal with King and Destiny.
They make the standard rotation after getting the bottom outer turret. However, Direwolves have not made that rotation. They're putting all of their eggs towards the bottom basket. They want to go for the turret themselves. Zone away the Nautilus, keep him from the structure. Only has magic resistance, so he would still die to a gank from 3 people. And they want to perhaps race them for the turret trades because they've got the extra member hitting the structures. Smash is here though.
Yep, Stamage going to continue helping Zaytnot as well as Dumbledore's push towards the top side of the map. Now moving in towards the top lane inner turrets. Chippies wants to go for a dive onto Naru, avoids the fish, still goes in for the dive. Ignite is ticking. Shockwave not going to connect as Fantix only gets knocked back. Chippy still hunting down the Orianna, will be able to get the Q off, chases them down, picks up a kill in the mid lane.
But meanwhile, pushing the top lane, SuperMassive, exactly where they were a minute ago, are just going to take down the second structure again. Chippies comes mid, looks for the kill. Not a bad call because the kill is secured, but SuperMassive are still pushing these objectives. It's just that they're too slow to make the rotation or a reaction to the play that the Turkish side are putting into play. They're getting trades, but it's not the same amount.
And that's a 2-for-1 turret trade that goes in favor of SuperMassive. Yes, they lose a kill in the mid lane, and potentially a Cloud Dragon, as Shonefire sneaks this one away from SuperMassive. But not the best of Elemental Dragons to get in a 2-for-1 turret trade.
For what it's worth, they get the Drake at a decent time in the game where SuperMassive can't bring their bottom lane from what was top lane back towards the Drake, pick up the free objective. Naturally, you expect them to go near mid lane, but this is where Direwolves can say, all right, you've got all of our outer structures. The next ones are harder to actually take down. We're just going to push top lane. We'll build up a big enough wave that we can secure the turret itself, and then we'll try and make the big play. But we have to highlight how SuperMassive are going to try and counteract that. Who are they bringing up to top lane? Oddly enough, it is Naru.
So Naru will be trying to farm up against King and Destiny, who are still pushing top side of the map. Zaytnot and Dumbledore have been brought into the lane with the final outer turret that's remaining for the Direwolves. Try and continue sieging the outer objectives, increase the turret lead that SuperMassive already have.
Now, they do still have Fantix in this middle lane. Has got a lot of wave clear. Zaytnot and Dumbledore have to pressure the Azir, not the minion waves, if they want to actually secure the mid lane structure. So Direwolves, they have an opportunity, a chance to make a play. It will be completely under the watching eye of SuperMassive, but the play is still there.
Direwolves will rotate quite a few members towards the top side of the map. Surefire sitting inside the jungle, lands a Q on towards Zeitnot, spots out the rest of SuperMassive waiting inside of their own blue side of the jungle.
Notices a small army. Still looking for things to happen here, though. Working around the explosive plant, really easy way to escape for both Destiny and Schönfire.
There you go, jumping back over the wall as King still gets some chip damage onto the top lane outer turret.
Which again is just free damage that they're able to secure for themselves. So SuperMassive.
Chippy's trying to throw out the fish there. Gets a ghost out of Naru, but avoids the kill threat from the Fizz.
Still has no flash, however, so Shockwave is on. I don't think it'll mean too much.
Very aggressive Shockwave, gets Fancy to Surefire down to a quarter of their health and saves the turret. As now Fabulous from Fog of War onto Fantix, tries to slide them back out, will take quite a bit of damage while Grove keeps him alive.
Yeah, you can't kill him through the heal and the Lulu. Able to stay alive. However, this does mean the pressure's going to be there from SuperMassive. They're looking at the mid lane.
Yeah, they're going to continue pushing on forward. Dumbledore has been jumped on by Schönfire, who tries to safeguard away from the tether range, still gets locked up. Flash being burnt by Dumbledore, but SuperMassive have used that time to chip away a mid lane out of turret, and they take it down.
Exactly, so the only remaining outer turret does drop. They've got themselves 2 top lane, 1 bottom lane. The map is pretty much theirs if you were SuperMassive, and this is where the vision game actually becomes the biggest deal for both of these teams. Direwolves, easier job warding their own jungle, but there's a lot more room to breathe for SuperMassive. Place them wherever they'd like, and it starts to choke the Direwolves roster out.
And for the second time today, we see the Direwolves facing across from a gold deficit 15 minutes into the match, where SuperMassive, they were the ones that were behind against Rampage. They must be feeling really confident coming to this game 15 minutes in, ahead of the Direwolves.
Definitely, but you still look at the Direwolves team composition and say they are well and truly in with a shot. The scaling on that team is unreal. They've got the Lee Sin, who helps get them through the early game at least a little bit. They hit mid-game, 2 items on the Azir, 2 items on the Ezreal is always going to be a big spike, but most importantly, the Fizz for Chippies. He's able to assassinate what was the hard carry of SuperMassive in their first respective game of this tournament, which is the Caitlyn. Has the Ignite, not a lot's actually going to keep him alive because it's an Elise this time around. There is no Ivern.
He's still sitting on a couple of components here, Chippies. The Double Dark Seal, the Sheen, as well as the Spectre's Cow. So will be some time before August. That's stolen. That was stolen by Double Doge with the empowered Q right under the nose of both Schönfire and Chippies.
They tried to burst it out. They could have just let the Carver Q finish before bursting it out. But there you go. Double Doge picks himself up some mana regeneration, some cooldown reduction, and a fancy looking buff on his back.
With that, SuperMassive continues sieging more inner turrets. Stormage and Zeitnot won't be able to poke down the bottom lane inner turret as King and Destiny do what they can, but King's been locked down. Wild Growth forced to be used. Will Arcade shift away, but it's not enough. Zeitnot takes it down. Meanwhile, mid lane, Fantix in trouble, flashes away, not enough. Clockwork wind up into his face, gets a kill.
Schönfire.
And they're looking for more. Schönfire will try and kick them away. Tags Naru, flashes over the wall, gets a shield. But look at Starmarch all the way into the back lines. Will get exhausted, goes toe to toe. Fabulous jumps in, picks up a kill for himself. As SuperMassive are looking incredibly strong.
SuperMassive looking fantastic, but Direwolves just individually getting caught out of position. Mid lane 1v1, Naru shows that he is still a big carry for this team. Takes apart Fantix in this 1v1. We get to see how it unfolds. That was close from Fantix, to say the least, but the Shockwave whilst in midair actually sends him flying. Again, Fabulous cancels the ward hop, which is why Schönfire is now stuck in this position, has to flash. Stomage, he does go in. The exhaust is nice to get them a turnaround kill, if nothing else, from the Direwolves side. Schönfire gets another bit of gold in his pocket. Direwolves have not got gold anywhere else.
Certainly have not. Only trades that have completely been going in the favor of SuperMassive so far, who sit on a nice and comfortable 3,000 gold lead over the Direwolves. 5 turrets to 2 in this game, 5 to 3 in kills. And SuperMassive seem to be the most proactive team in this match so far.
Yeah, definitely. Fantix on this Azir, just not showing up as much as you would like from him on the champion. A lot of the pressure, all the shields, even the dueling out of Orianna is starting to just whittle him down more and more. But we still can't count that team out. You look towards Chippies, he's farming well. That's one thing that Direwolves are doing. It's just that they're dying. They're getting caught out in these fights. They're losing the duels, but they are farming. They're still getting towards their big item breakpoints.
Second elemental dragon of the game is going to spawn. It's going to be another Cloud Dragon. You see Direwolves are looking to try and set up around that river, but quickly taken back by SuperMassive.
Yeah,
Clear out the wards.
Control wards on the top side, so Direwolves are not going to go near this Drake at all, even though they can see it being done. They have to concede.
Yep, SuperMassive get another small objective for themselves. There'll still be a couple more Elemental Dragons to spawn in this game. Cloud is another one will spawn next year, Rusty.
We're only seeing Clouds. NA Drakes. Not going to mean too much, you'd have to imagine. There's nothing super move speed reliant for both of these teams. Bit of kiting from the Fizz, doesn't have flash, that'll help him.
Whereas now, 18 minutes into the match, Baron is going to be spawning soon. It's still very early for either team to look towards that objective. Unless something horribly goes wrong for either side. But Direwolves are positioning around that side of the pit. Whereas SuperMassive moving more towards the bottom side of the map. Naru actually staying in Fog of War as he looks to try and clear out the top lane wave that is pushing quite aggressively for the Direwolves. They're fighting over this mid lane.
Top lane. They've got Nautilus bottom who's rotating up now. So this is a window of opportunity for Direwolves to go for a turret or make a play if they choose. Oriana's still not going to be nearby.
Oh, Chippy's going to be able to avoid the cocoon, finds Fabulous, throws out the shark, knocks them both up with the wild grove. Stormage in trouble, King gets a kill. Churnfire is very low, but Fabulous is low as well. Churnfire going in, kicks him away, but still lives. Naru, though, deep into the backlines, gets the triple kill, will be taken down by Chippies, as Fairtix still looking to try and push for more, but SuperMassive, again, they trade 2 for 3.
SuperMassive still trade well without Naru being there at the very beginning. A triple kill for the Oriana, but that's still the signs of life we're talking about from the Direwolves. Catching SuperMassive sleeping, making the most out of it, still getting a turret trade at the end of the day, actually in their favor, whilst they get all of these kills. It's a big fight from Naru. We will get to see what the Oriana actually breaks out here. But firstly, the Fish hitting with the Lulu combo. Chippies is completely indomitable, and Churnfire tries his best to assassinate Zeitnot, but kicking him away living. Close, not enough. Naru steps up to the plate, aggressively going in. Good shockwave, and trying to pick it up the slack of his team.
And in the middle of the chaos, still able to jump straight into the back lines of the Direwolves, knowing that he can take down Churnfire as well, who was so close to killing Zeitnot, who jumped in so aggressively into the back lines as well.
That's where the karma comes to play. Too many shields, the heal also was there for the Caitlyn. Enough summoners to keep him alive through the burst, but there is a lot of damage still coming out of the Direwolves roster onto carries if they can get those carries, and that's how that fight broke out.
There certainly is. Chippies has already completed his Trinity Force, top side of the map, still has 1 Dark Seal with half its stacks available. Nash of Soup completed as well for Fantix. King has gone for the Blade of Ruin King into the Manamune. So decent damage coming out from the walls, but you look at the side of SuperMassive, they've got some damage to pack as well. Infinity Edge, Hurricane already picked up. Stormage going to try and lock down Churnfire, repels away from the Fish, comes back down after it props. Chippy is still going deep into the back lines, but there's so many members of SuperMassive there. That was a mistake.
You do not want that, Mr. Chippies. Now the whole team fighting.
That Fabulous though jumps in, Churnfire takes him down. Riptide going to get cancelled after the Nautilus will die. SuperMassive still chasing for more, but at the end it's just top laners being traded back and forth.
Yeah, Chippies was deep, but suddenly Fabulous was also too deep. The flank position changed, and what was meant to be the flank became the front line. Caught out of position. Direwolves still want this inside track. They still want mid lane, and they are basically just bringing out the good old-fashioned Oceanic ARAM against SuperMassive.
Yeah, Svantik's already put down a turret in the mid lane to make sure that SuperMassive can't push out too efficiently or fight them close deep inside of their base. Churnfire decided to go away from the team and is farming up the rest of his jungle. But the Direwolves are trying to claw back some of the gold lead that SuperMassive have taken in this game, but it's still 2,500 gold in SuperMassive's favor.
The amount of gold that they are in advantage, however, for the SuperMassive side is indicative of the 2 turrets that they've actually managed to pick up for themselves. So Direwolves have brought it back to a little bit closer. However, when you look at the items that are coming through from the SuperMassive side, 2 Haunting Geysers, it's going to be a Leandri's that goes towards Naru's Oriana build. All of this flat magic penetration against a team that has actually got a lot of MR. Starts to wear off in efficiency very quickly, but the Baron, that gets shredded.
They've got no vision on this. SuperMassive get it down to 2,500 health. Teleport is going to come in from Chippy. Churnfire says, I'm going to try and take it if you're going to back off. 1,700 health. Chippy's in the back line. Churnfire taking it. He jumps in. Taken away by Oriana. SuperMassive get Baron. They take down Churnfire as well.
And as if Naru could not carry any harder, he secures the Baron for his team one more time. SuperMassive, they took the 50-50, but they only took it because Direwolves said, let's dance. And they jumped inside the pit, wanted an opportunity to fight them for it, does not secure it.
SuperMassive cleared out the Baron pit, waited so patiently, and when they knew the Direwolves had no vision, weren't going to react, pulled the trigger. Naru, like you mentioned, putting his team on his back today, Rusty.
It definitely is. Of course, we get to see how this one pans out against Shermfire. I'm going to say went in a bit too quickly, but he wanted to keep the Baron aggro, he wanted to keep its health low. Chippies tries to time his auto attack at the same time, but it was about 100 health off, so unfortunately, neither of the junglers secure it with smites being down.
102 hit points away from being smoked by either team here. And SuperMassive with a 5,000 gold lead and Baron buff are going to look to try and cripple the structures that are remaining outside of the Direwolves base. They still have an inner turret in the mid lane to take down as well as the bottom lane.
And that's just such a big advantage for both carries on the side of SuperMassive. 2,000 gold advantage for both of them against each of their respective opponents. All of the kills going to the Orianna, even though the farm was there for Fantix. They're just so strong right now. If the team can support them, Fabulous on the Nautilus can just stand in front of them, be indomitable as this Naut. Samaj can just protect his team, and Karma's always going to do that.
Yep, SuperMassive will use their Baron buff effectively to take down the mid lane inner turret, now pushing for even more as the inhibitor is under siege. Zeitnot so close to completing his second seal item of the game. Should be a rapid fire cannon or a static shiv. But he's been impressive this entire tournament, was the MVP for his team in the finals. And he's looking to continue to assert his dominance against every single team in Group A.
Yeah, again, it should be the rapid fire cannon, the standard Caitlyn build. He's gone for the Infinity Edge build, though, not the Blade of the Ruined King. A bit more crit, scaled up well.
Fabulous looking for an engage towards Fantix. This is the hook. Two-shot barrage comes out from King, just trying to clear up the Baron up minions.
And the way that Fantix deals with this is by finding Zeitnot. If he can actually find the carry that kills the structures, then SuperMassive can't actually break the base. But if they don't get onto him, turrets will drop.
However, SuperMassive, they've already chipped down the mid lane inhibitor turret to half health, keeping their siege minion alive. And they will slowly push on in. There was a big wave bottom that pushed on towards the turret. Shermfire gets locked down and poked out to about 2/4 of his health.
But Zeitnot also gets halved once again by the Azir, but two cannons building up.
And Redemption coming out. There was a Q connecting from Shermfire, but decided
They're
not
just
to
going
make
for it.
This is going to be inhibitor turret broken by SuperMassive, and they engage on the Shermfire as well, locking him down with every single piece of crowd control they have. Ignite is ticking. Shermfire gets healed up by King in the back lines as Direwolves won't lose their members and are looking to engage themselves. Fish gets thrown out by Chippies. He dives into the back lines. Playful Tricks is away. Big mistake because Fabulous is here and King is now being chased upon. Fantix is dead. The Orianna Shockwave will take him down, and the Direwolves are faced with SuperMassive crashing on towards the base.
And easy as you'd like, it looks like they just want to finish the game.
They want to go 2-0 in this group. Direwolves want to try and fight back. It's not going to happen here today. SuperMassive want to end this game. Shermfire jumps in, tries to do something, but he just can't. King will be taken down as well. 4 kills picked up by SuperMassive. A double kill for Zeitnot, and they will go 2-0 here in the group stage.
26-minute shellacking out of the SuperMassive side, able to dismantle the Direwolves when you hit mid-game. All it comes down to is that 5v5 team fighting, the Baron buff being secured, and nothing was going to slow them down.
And again, from start to finish, this looked like SuperMassive, they had control. Yes, there were signs of life from the Direwolves, but it just wasn't enough in any way, shape, or form to try and even contest SuperMassive today.
Honestly, you need more consistent signs. You can't just have them sporadically popping up here and there. They want to get these victories. They've shown that they have what it takes to get them, but SuperMassive just looked better in the game.
They certainly did, able to pick up a win there. And in such decisive fashion, I mean, now we have the Red Canids who are looking really good in Group A. SuperMassive looking really good as well. Rampage stepped up to the plate, even though they've suffered losses today. And it's only really the Direwolves that just look out of form today.
Yeah, they look a little bit shook up. The jitter's still definitely there for the Direwolves side. You compare that to SuperMassive, look good in Game 1, good in Game 2. Rampage definitely still looked pretty strong.
And right now, for their thoughts on that game, let's send this one back to the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Fish and Rusty. Here we have SuperMassive moving to 2-0. So some really serious separation happening within Group A already, 2-0s to 0-2s. But for Direwolves, you know, the confidence that they came in with, and now to start off with 2 losses.
Yeah, I feel like that while the Koreans may be shaking right now, I feel that the Direwolves still, they need to work a little bit harder if they want to find a way out of this group.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you only have 6 games to play. You're already down 2, so they're going to have to start winning here soon and fast if they want to make a run for that first place slot. But let's talk about how we got to this victory for SuperMassive. Once again, let's go into champion select. Mark, I know you had some thoughts here on this one.
Yeah, I really don't like their bans. Really, they get rid of the Ashe in the second ban phase, so then the other team realizes they can just ban Varus last, and now you can first pick Caitlyn, which we talk about, you know, respecting the kind of tournament meta that you're in. We've seen Caitlyn be very high priority. Direwolves themselves first rotationed it in the first game of the day that they played. So we know that there's this high priority on Caitlyn. You ban away 2 of the 80 carries that do the best into her. What do you think is going to happen? Gets first pick by the enemy team. They could have banned it inside of the Graves. I realize not many people are saying Caitlyn's ban worthy, but you need to understand that, like, it can abuse you.
Absolutely. Of course, they were able to pick up that Lulu, but we know that many other shielding supports still exist. So the Karma kind of filling that role just as well, and SuperMassive is kind of easily able to run through this game.
I mean, like, the fact that they also picked themselves an Ezreal, too, you're netting yourself an already losing bottom lane down the bottom, and I feel that the issue that we're now seeing with a lot of these teams is that they don't understand how to trade objectives, because when you're playing against the Caitlyn Karma, you're going to lose your turret.
Yeah.
It is going to go down. So the best case scenario is, again, coming back to the earlier game that we saw, you either try and force a play to get yourself a bot lane advantage, or you make the trade happen in the top side, and they didn't.
And instead, Direwolves' solution was to force plays elsewhere on the map. We saw 940 forcing in the mid lane, turns into a 2-for-0 the other way with the Elise counter gank coming in here at the end.
My biggest issue with this play is I don't understand why they felt the need to try and force this play. Like, they even pinged out that Elise was moving in through the river. They had full knowledge that Nautilus was back in base. Like, everything was ready for SuperMassive to turn this gank in their favor, and it was just too overzealous from the side of Direwolves.
Right, and you look at the fact that they also have the counter pick in the top side. Second time in a row that they were not able to do anything with it. First game he's playing the Olaf, this time around on the Fizz. No ganks really going up there to do anything about it, and the Fizz just kind of drops off into irrelevancy. The one play that he made, he roamed on mid and was able to pick up a kill.
To be fair, the Fizz came in before the Nautilus.
Right, but I'm saying you're taking these kind of aggressive top laners,
Right.
the other person's taking a tank into it, and what do you do with it? Nothing.
Exactly that, and think about the difference, right? If you're gonna lose bottom lane, just send your jungler topside like over and over and over again. You get the Fizz to a point in which he can easily solo kill out. Now you have all this pressure on top lane. Oh, you lose your bot tower? It's fine. We can trade it for the top because we're now winning that half of the map. And it feels like the Direwolves don't understand how to play around their strengths. Instead, they just try to make the magic happen wherever they see an opportunity. And they're like, hey, birds are good against robots. Let's try and get an attack here in mid. And
Today I learned.
I didn't know that one. The Pokemon types, I didn't remember.
It's a
being
British
against
thing.
steel.
Rock,
Right.
paper, scissors, robot, birds.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's that the very
is when
standard
you throw it,
classic
you gotta
game
do
that
this.
we're all super aware of. Okay, but Direwolves here, as we mentioned, now down 0-2, SuperMassive. We got Red Cannons up 2-0. This is where I kind of want to pull back and take another look at this group, right? At the beginning of the day, we're talking about how most people are saying this will be the most competitive group with the strongest teams, and yet we immediately have a top half and a second and a bottom half, and it's going to take a lot of work for either Direwolves or RPG to make a run towards that first place slot.
Yeah, like you said, Red Canids and SuperMassive being the 2 teams going in, that everyone's saying this is why this group is so strong, because these are probably the 2 strongest teams potentially in the whole group of wildcards, the pool of 8, and they're in the same group together. And then we were talking about how we thought RPG would potentially look really good. They've had some games where you see some elements of why we were respecting them, but still have come up a little short here. And they have a lot of work to do to keep their hopes alive.
And now it's going to be Direwolves versus Rampage, both of them fighting for at least one opportunity for a win. And then finally, at the end of the day, we get to see SuperMassive versus Red Cannons to see who can solidify that first place spot too. So 2 very important games coming up for them.
Yeah, 2 more games to go today. Of course, then they'll have some time to kind of retool going into the second day of games that they'll be playing. And I think that's a big thing to take note of, right? We've seen at Worlds the difference between week 1 performances and week 2 performances in that group stage, and how much teams can really re-strategize in that time. Will they start trading turrets as opposed to just running their faces into walls and kind of, banging straight into them. So, as you mentioned, we got 2 big games coming up that are really going to set the difference and set the pace, rather, for the rest of the group. But as a whole, when you're looking at it right now, given what you guys were talking about at the beginning of the day, Red Canids, SuperMassive, which one feels more dominant to you at the moment?
In my eyes, I actually feel that SuperMassive seems like the stronger team in being able to play the map better, and knowing how to play around the strengths that they have with their composition. I really like the drafting and the adaptations that they've been making, and I feel like what we're seeing from the Red Canids is that, yes, they get themselves a lead, and yes, they have a rough idea of what to do with it, but just they put their pieces on the board in the wrong place sometimes, and they end up leaving these little windows for teams to come back, which is why we saw that big comeback from Rampage.
I would actually still go with Red Canids as the better of the two. I think that their ability to turn these plays in the early game is extremely important, and it's not just like, oh, we got a good gank off. They usually make some sense in terms of like the counter picking with the Darius, and then ganking it extremely early on with the dive with the Elise, and basically setting themselves up for success. I agree there are some problems with their macro play if they're playing a 1-3-1 comp, but they can also just stick with a pick comp that doesn't need to split up quite as much. If you go with something like a Syndra, you can potentially grab that one.
That's going to make our 6th game of the day very interesting as those 2 first-place teams go up against each other. When we come back, though, Direwolves will return to the stage to face Rampage. We'll see which team can net their first win of the day after the break.
They want to go 2-0 in this group. Direwolves want to try and fight back. It's not going to happen here today. SuperMassive want to end this game. Surefire jumps in, tries to do something, but he just can't. King will be taken down as well. 4 kills picked up by SuperMassive. A double kill for Zeitnot, and they will go 2-0 here in the group stage.